never thought I'd own a house before turning 30. It wasn't big 2 bedrooms, faded paint, the kind of place realtors call a fixer-upper with potential. But for me, it was perfect. Quiet neighborhood, wide street, lawns trimmed like every blade of grass was watching the next. The price was suspiciously low. The agent said it was a foreclosure. When I asked why, she hesitated, then said, "The previous owner passed away, no family to claim it." I signed the papers the same day. Moving in felt like starting over. The first night, I walked through each empty room, proud, still hearing the echo of my own footsteps. Then I noticed the smell, not rot, not gas, something else. A stale, earthy odor, faint but constant, coming from the floor vents. The neighbors came by the next morning, a couple in their 50s, smiling too hard. They brought pie, asked polite questions, and avoided eye contact when I mentioned the last owner. When I asked what happened to him, the husband said, "He was old. The house got too quiet for him." That phrasing stuck with me. Later that week, while unpacking boxes, I found something inside one of the kitchen cabinets, a folded piece of paper wedged behind a pipe. It was yellowed and brittle, like it had been there for years. One sentence, written in shaky handwriting. "Don't move my things." I laughed at first. Maybe it was left by a kid or someone just playing around. But that night, as I lay in bed, I heard a noise, a faint shuffle, like fabric sliding across wood. It came from the hallway. I turned on the lamp. The door was open. I could have sworn I closed it. When I got up to check, I found something else on the floor, a small pile of dust and nails arranged neatly in a circle. And in the middle, another note. This one was written in fresh ink. "Stop moving things." The next morning, I convinced myself it had to be a prank. Maybe the neighbors were testing the new guy, or maybe the previous owner's relatives still had a key. I changed the locks that afternoon. That night, I placed one of my security cameras in the hallway, facing the bedroom door. No way someone was sneaking in again. By midnight, the house had gone dead quiet. No crickets, no wind. Just that heavy suburban silence that makes every noise sound personal. I lay in bed, staring at the red light of the camera, until sleep finally took over. When I checked the footage the next morning, the hallway was empty. For the first 3 hours, nothing. Then, around 3:14 a.m., the bedroom door slowly swung open on its own. The camera adjusted focus, catching a faint flicker of movement, a shadow crawling low across the floor, too small to be an adult, too fast to be a trick of the light. And then, something impossible. A hand, thin, gray, shaking, slid into view and placed a folded piece of paper on the carpet before vanishing back into the dark. The note said, "You're moving everything again." I wanted to call the police, but what would I tell them? That I was being haunted by an overprotective interior decorator. So I started testing it. I moved things on purpose. A chair from the kitchen to the living room. A book from one shelf to another. I left each item out of place, waiting. By the next morning, everything was back exactly where I'd found it. Every chair, every book, every tool lined up perfectly. And there was another note taped to the fridge. "Don't go into the basement." Here's the thing. I didn't even know I had a basement. I looked around until I noticed a small square cut into the floor of the laundry room, hidden beneath a mat. A trapdoor, no handle, no reason it should have been there at all. As I crouched to lift the edge, a sound drifted up from below, a low, steady breathing. It wasn't echoing. It wasn't faint. It was right there, just under my feet. I didn't open the hatch that night. I couldn't. That sound, breathing, steady and slow, felt too deliberate, like whoever was down there was waiting for me to answer. The next morning, I went to the hardware store and bought a crowbar, a flashlight, and a padlock. I told myself it was just to check for animals or plumbing issues. But deep down, I knew something worse was living under that floor. When I pried the hatch open, the smell hit first. Damp earth, old metal, and something sweet rotting underneath. The light from my flashlight fell on a narrow passage leading deeper, part crawl space, part tunnel. The walls were lined with old insulation, shredded and torn like someone had been clawing at it. About 10 feet in, I found a mattress. Dirty, mold-stained. Next to it were 2 open cans of food, their labels faded. And beside them, a camera, pointed up through a vent that connected to my bedroom. The battery was dead, but the red light had left a faint burn mark on the plastic. My skin went cold. Someone had been living here, watching me. There were more notes scattered across the dirt floor, dozens of them written in that same shaky hand. You're not alone. Stop moving my house. He doesn't like the light. I heard a noise behind me. A rustle, like fabric brushing against wood. I turned the flashlight around, but the beam caught only dust and shadows. Then something breathed again, closer this time, coming from the far end of the crawl space. The light caught a wall made of plywood, patched and uneven, and on it, carved in rough letters, was a sentence that made my knees buckle. He never left. I scrambled backward, kicking up dirt, trying to get out. But as I reached the opening, a hand pressed flat against the inside of the hatch. Long fingers, pale and trembling, blocking my way. I froze. Whoever was down there whispered, barely audible through the dark. "Please, don't tell him I'm still here." Then the hand slipped away, vanishing into the tunnel. I slammed the hatch shut, locked it, and backed away. My heart was racing, but the fear wasn't the same anymore. It wasn't just that someone had been living under my house. It was the way they'd set him. Who the hell was he? I didn't go to work the next day. I just sat in my living room, staring at the hatch, listening. Sometimes I thought I could hear something moving under there. Faint scraping, like nails on wood. But every time I leaned closer, it stopped. Around noon, there was a knock at the door. It was Mrs. Keller, the woman from across the street. She was holding a plate of cookies wrapped in plastic, her smile a little too tight. "I haven't seen you leave the house," she said. "Everything all right?" I nodded, but she kept looking past me, toward the floor. Finally, I asked, "You've lived here a long time, right? Do you know anything about the man who owned this place before me?" Her smile disappeared. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. "There were 2 of them." "What do you mean?" "Twins," she whispered. "Old men. One owned the house, the other just showed up one day. People said they kept to themselves, but sometimes you'd see one at the grocery store, and then the same man again across town a few minutes later." I frowned. "So, there were 2? She nodded, but only one name was ever on the mailbox. Then she glanced at the vent near the baseboard and said something that froze me. "After the funeral, I kept hearing knocking from the ground, like someone trying to get out. I asked her what happened to the brother, but she just shook her head. They said he wandered off, but she hesitated. He was terrified of the dark. Always said the house listened when he spoke too loud. Before leaving, she touched my arm. "Whatever you do," she whispered, "don't go down there at night." That evening, I sat by the hatch again. I'd left the flashlight on the floor pointing at the lock. Around midnight, it rattled. Once, then again, steady and deliberate. Then a voice drifted up, softer than before. "He's not gone. He's under the floor with me." The sound of breathing followed. 2 sets this time. One shallow, one deep, rhythmic, like something sleeping or pretending to. The floorboards above the hatch creaked one after another, as if footsteps were crossing the room. And then from the other side of the vent, a whisper I'll never forget. "He doesn't like you living here." That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I dragged the couch across the hatch, pushed a chair against my bedroom door, and tried to drown out every noise with the sound of the TV. But the vents wouldn't stop whispering. It started as a faint hum, then words, 2 voices overlapping, one trembling, the other deep and angry. "You shouldn't have moved in. He said it was still our house." Then came the scratching, not from below anymore, from inside the walls. Something crawling from vent to vent, moving closer to my room. I grabbed my phone to call the police. No signal. The screen glitched, lines flickering like static. And then from the hallway, I heard the floorboards creak. Someone was standing outside my bedroom door. I held my breath. The doorknob turned slowly, just enough for the latch to click. I kicked the door shut and ran to the window, yanking it open. But outside was only darkness, too thick to see through. Then, beneath me, the couch scraped across the floor on its own. The hatch creaked open. The smell of earth flooded the room. I aimed the flashlight toward the hole. 2 eyes stared back, one pair pale and frantic, the other black and still. The first voice, weak and shaking, begged, "Help me. Don't let him take me back down." The other voice spoke from behind him. "You shouldn't have moved my things." The light flickered out. There was a sound like something heavy being dragged across wood, and then silence. When I woke up, it was morning. The couch was back in place. The hatch was closed. But there were footprints, muddy, barefoot, leading from the laundry room to my bed and back. I called the police that afternoon. They searched the crawl space and found only old cans, mold, and a half-rotted mattress. No one else. The officer said the house had belonged to 2 brothers. One died of a heart attack. The other was never found. They told me it was probably raccoons. But I've lived here 3 months now, and every night, just before I fall asleep, I hear it again. That soft, rhythmic breathing under the floorboards. And sometimes, when I open my eyes, I see the hatch just barely cracked, like someone's listening to make sure I haven't moved their things. If this story kept you awake tonight, give it a like. Drop a comment telling me what you think is under that house. And subscribe to the Horror States for more true American nightmare stories. New tales every week, and remember, some houses never truly change owners.